Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Today I'd like to talk to you about my project, Bacteria and Microgreens. This is my abstract, which discusses the definition of microgreens, which is a hypothesized term used for the emerging food product that is developed for various commercial food crops, such as vegetables, grains, and herbs, that consist of developed cotyledons along partially expanded true leaves. Microgreen is in my eyes, it's a super vegetable. It grows into a small pack form, but develops 40 times the nutrients that a mature plant would usually have. My hypothesis. The hypothesis of this experiment is that testing different pre-sowing treatments to decrease the amount of bacteria will determine the sterile process of growing microgreens, especially in autoclave vinegar. I hypothesized that an autoclave or vinegar would be the best solution to decreasing the amount of bacteria in microgreens. Since vegetables are one of the greatest food-borne outbreaks, it was a very heavy topic on my mind that something so useful that can develop 40 times nutrients in such a small amount should be used often and shouldn't have food outbreaks that are caused by bacteria. My materials and methods. My materials included coconut coir soil from outside in the greenhouse, an autoclave from upstairs, the sterilization bags, carbon dioxide tanks that I were not able to use, vinegar, clay pebbles, and beet seeds. To find a proper medium, which took me close to 3 months around.
Multiple tries.
I had developed first clay pebbles outside the soil. Then I found out that the seeds would not hold or grow if they didn't have a place to sit on. Then I found coconut coir, which I placed at the bottom of my soil to help grow and contain the moisture that was necessary for them to sprout. After realizing that my coconut coir was a good base, I switched it out for a strip to a mixture. I made a coconut coir and soil mixture base, which I categorized into 4 test groups known as VA, which stood for vinegar autoclave, VO, vinegar oven, NA, neutral autoclave, and NO, which was neutral oven. And I had a 5th test group, which was known as scratch, where I placed the seeds inside of the autoclave to see if they would still grow. I hypothesized that VA and VO would grow best since they were in the autoclave and oven, but because they had vinegar in them, I thought it would best grow. These were all planted April 25th and underwent the treatment in the autoclave for 30 minutes at 250 degrees. Slide, please. Just some pictures of my work. After giving the treatment to each of my soil groups, and one group having seeds inside of them already, I placed them into a sterilization bag so no bacteria would touch them, and then I placed my seeds in there in hopes that they would grow. After close to 3 or 2 days, my microgreens started to sprout and develop, but they were close to dying as well. So after that, I had to put it into a petri dish, where I sectioned it off into 3 sectors and developed what I thought would grow bacteria. Next slide, please. These are my results and analysis. There are a total of 5 test groups with 2 soil treatments and 2 sterilization processes. Both sterilization processes were around 250 degrees Fahrenheit in the oven for slightly 30 minutes. Test groups VA and VO, which went against my hypothesis, did not germinate while inside of sterilization bags. Test groups NA and NO did germinate with vermiculite, which is a white substance that surrounds your seeds, and majority of the seeds grew. Surprisingly, my scratch test group, which I did not currently believe would grow, actually grew one of the best, close to NA and NO. My results for predictions were visible. As you can see here, This is what I predicted the amount of bacteria would be versus what the amount of bacteria close was to. Due to a lack of time, I did not put in my agar into my petri dish as soon as I wish I had. And these test results or test groups didn't have enough time to develop bacteria that was visible. I can only go based upon what I thought I could see. And based off of what I did see, test group VA had slight visible bacteria. Test group VO was the same as VA with slightly more built around the seeds. Test group NA carried a visible change in the tone of color around the soil with a lack of bacteria near the leaves. Test group NO had no visible growth, and test group Scratch had no visible growth either. Each of these test groups were sectored off into 2 seeds and a plot of soil. Next slide, please.
When you say no visible growth, is that growth of bacteria? Or
No visible
plant?
growth of bacteria inside of the petri dish. Since this project was sectioned off into 2 areas, these are the pictures of my petri dishes, and you can see the groups that grew something, I cut them off and put them in the petri dish in hopes that bacteria would grow. You can see right here slight discoloration and the NA, and some groups started to rise slightly with bacteria. Next slide, please. In conclusion, my hypothesis for testing different pre-sowing methods was correct, but my lack of time for bacterial measure prevented the discussion of my measured hypothesis. If I were to do this again, I would have started earlier and focused more on my research of my materials rather than my growth methods and control groups. My lack of preparation for unknown materials and use of time led to the discontinuation of this research. That's it.
Any questions, guys?
Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Ms. Frazier?
Yes. What did they taste like? She said you were eating some on your way in this morning.
Oh, that was a joke.
Oh, okay.
You were eating the beets, weren't you?
Tasted like salad, greens.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
Questions? Mr.
I have a comment. You did great, buddy.
Well done.
Marcus has a question?
How long did it take for you to get all of your data accumulated?
How many days do we have over the weekend?
Exactly.
Oh, 3 days.
It was from the 25th until now that he was, his established project that he has presented on has occurred. But as he said, for 3 months he was doing research, trying to figure out what to grow it with, and having mistake after mistake. So just like Albert Einstein or Benjamin Franklin, like how many times did they run an experiment before it actually worked? A lot. So that's what, as you freshmen need to, and sophomore, Ethan, need to hear, a lot of times, like, just because you did the experiment doesn't mean it's gonna be right, and you might have you might have to try it multiple times. So that's why it's important to get started before April 25th, when it should be done, much earlier.
All right, good job, guys.